U7 Buy provides the most convenient, fastest, and safest way to upgrade your team with numerous positive reviews and verified by top creators from different countries with 24/7 online customer support. Now you can enjoy an extra free coins for every order. Don't miss the opportunity for up to 4 million free coins. Use my code Inception for another 8% off. What's up, guys? Long time no see, man. How you guys doing? Hey, listen, for FC25, straight autopilot. Okay, you guys know the vibes there. But the content we were creating is just more for the partnership, you know what I'm saying? Because honestly, if it was up to me, 2-month break. I swear, dude, 2-month break, bro. We're back at it again with the white vans. We're going to be checking out the new FC26 stuff. I don't know if I'll be the type of person to make like rating videos and stuff. Not really like my cup of tea to normally do. Like really what I'm about is like when the game is out, so that's when I try out some stuff and then I can provide information that way. Because yeah, like even with a starter team, like I feel like you have to try out the starter team first and see what the gameplay and stuff is like. But it's just people kind of coming up with concepts right now because FC25 is dead and it's just a way to kind of like get the videos rolling, right? But for the video today, we are going to be taking a look at the PC version of the game. Which we got to be honest is very important to mention because the console version of this game is garbage, right? I'm sorry to say, but it's true. Even though the large majority of people will play the game on the console, I don't know for sure if it will be on 26. Do I have a huge feeling that it probably will be, even with them actually acknowledging and mentioning inconsistent gameplay, actually using the terminology of bad versus good nowadays. Fantastic, but I still don't trust them, right? So the console version of the game, I don't know for sure. I don't know if I'll be able to see it in these pitch notes, but I think they're still going to limit it to 60 FPS. And at this point in time, it doesn't make sense that that's the case, right? Hopefully they actually do have a graphic setting next year that allows you to play at 120, because when you play games like Marvel Rivals or Call of Duty, like Marvel Rivals on console, even at 4K resolution, there's an HFR mode, right? And the HFR mode will allow you to play at 120 FPS. And then on Call of Duty, it's the same thing where I think you could play at 120 FPS too. But yeah, even at 120 FPS, like that's kind of like where it should be at. And the latency difference it for this game in particular is way more noticeable, in my opinion, right? So very important to mention that. But controller support enhancements, they're adding more DualShock 4 and DualSense controller support so that you get the haptics and stuff. Honestly, I don't care too much about that. I turn that stuff off anyways. That's usually what you do in most of the games. Some people like to have that turned on, but yeah, for me, I don't really care too much. This is where it gets interesting because here's the thing, guys. The PC version of this game is 100% the most, and I don't say this just because of like my past with EA, but I do say this like genuinely, it is the most poorly optimized game I have ever had to see issues and try to fix certain things to make it work, right? They did add more options, so this will add more options for you in general, but this game as of right now, it has like a huge issue where, at least for me, trying it on a 4K monitor with 144 hertz, it does not feel possible to not stutter if I don't use VSYNC, while also resetting the graphic setting from the PC in the actual game and then putting it back to the original setting that it was at. This game is the only game I've ever had to do that for in order for me to get smooth gameplay at a higher resolution. And you guys will see in the future video once I figure out these settings, because they are adding new things, right? So you're going to see here from the important stuff, they're adding frame rate limits now extend beyond 120 FPS with supports for 144, 165, 240. The thing is, though, guys, is that is going to be an in-game option. Now, because of how poorly optimized the PC version of FC is, it might be beneficial, but you guys know in the past what you would do to cap your FPS to be at a certain point is you would just go to your NVIDIA control panel and cap your FPS there, or you use Riva Tuner and cap your FPS there as well. The thing about this game, right, is that, and I have not tested this out because I think Crasy has a monitor that goes up to 360 hertz at 1440p resolution. So that's the only test that I haven't done on the PC that might actually remove stutter while still giving you more responsiveness, because you can kind of surpass a certain amount of frame rates because your hertz allows you to do that. In other games, whenever I play games like Marvel Rivals or the Finals or Call of Duty, a lot of the times I don't have to limit my frame rate because the game is responsive and smooth, even though the frames are surpassing my amount of hertz on my monitor by a huge amount, right? Because I do 144, not do, but my monitor is 144 hertz at 4K. So there's so many games where like they'll go to like 190, 200 frames, 220 frames. A lot of the times for competitive gaming, 1440p seems to be the cutoff for like responsive but clear image, responsive gameplay with a clearer image, right? So that's why I was also considering getting like a 1440p monitor from LG that goes up to 480, just in case I can, you know, try that out with my computer, because responsiveness is more important than how it looks, right? But how it looks is way better on other games. It's significantly better. So it's just the way that FC works, and these are tests I'm going to be seeing and trying out, which is going to be 50-50 because, like I said, I don't have a monitor that surpasses the 144 hertz to test that out specifically, like Crassie's monitor, right? Because it goes up to 360. So he doesn't have to put VSYNC. He doesn't have to put an FPS limiter. So that's the only test I haven't tried out, is just having a monitor that has a higher refresh rate. But in game, that it's great that it has this, but you could do this before, right? Again, like I said, Riva tuner, NVIDIA control panel, you can change the FPS from there, right? So this one is where it gets a little bit more interesting, right? Is that there's more VSync options, right? So you can sync your frame rate to a fraction of your monitor's refresh rate, a half of it, 1/3 of it, or 1/4 of it, right? So I find that to be interesting because VSync might be the main fix for the game in general, and it might make a lot of sense to frame rate wise if it's 1/4 of it. Yeah, we're gonna have to see about this one when it comes out, because the fix right now for me, guys, is literally you have to turn it on. Like you have to turn on VSync and you get 144 FPS, so your latency is around like 7 milliseconds, right? Which is not as good as other games because you're not limiting FPS. Other games that I play will go to 2 or 3 because I don't limit the FPS, but in FC I have to. In FC, and then again, like I said, you have to like if you have your graphics setting on high, you literally have to go to medium back to high just to fix it. I've never had to do that for any other game, but for FC you have to, right? So I'm going to see if that's going to be the case for next year's game when we do like the optimization video, right? Render scale, adjust resolution relative to your render settings, especially useful for windowed or borderless modes. That's important to add because most of the other games have that nowadays too. Dynamic resolution FPS target. Set a performance target to trigger dynamic resolution scaling automatically. That's going to be something that you might have to test as well, right? So there might be like, there'll be like a quick video so that the game is playable for you guys, and then we might do other videos in the future just to see what the most optimized way of playing is. Oh, they're going to do the same thing that they did to Battlefield. Watch. They're going to do the same thing. We've worked to make PC graphics settings easier to understand and quicker to configure. Informative setting descriptions. Every graphic setting now includes descriptions and impact details on, I knew it, CPU, GPU, and VRAM. Yes. Yes. I knew it. You know why I'm saying this? Because I had a feeling that they were going to do this, right? Because in Battlefield 6, guys, it doesn't actually make a lot of sense to go and search a YouTube video for their graphic settings because it's going to be dependent on your computer. The reason why it's important that they're giving you the details of the CPU, GPU, and the VRAM usage is because you don't want to create a bottleneck in your system between either the CPU or the GPU. You want them to be very neutral with each other. I had to adjust my graphic settings on Battlefield so that they were both equally the same at a percentage usage. And that's why Riva Tuner is really important, like not really important, but it's really helpful to use because they give you the percentage usage of your CPU and your GPU so that you can see what the best case scenario was for yourself to not get bottlenecks. So the solutions for the PC version of the game next year, it might actually be way more advanced, right? Because that's a very important thing to mention, because I've always thought about that for FC25 where I was like, I don't know what part, because guys, when it comes to like optimization for PC, sometimes you need to increase graphics on your GPU so that it doesn't bottleneck your CPU. You know what I'm saying? So that's where it's like really interesting that they added that, because that's a Battlefield 6. Is that the new one? That's a Battlefield 6 thing. I had to learn that and like be I had to like adjust it to different things. Look, so you can see here, graphics quality presets. You can put low, medium, high, ultra, and auto to adjust quality settings. Restart required to take effect. But yeah, this is very important because that part we'll probably mention in the video too in the future, where that's going to be really dependent on your system, because what you're going to be looking for is to not bottleneck one or the other, right? So that's going to be very important to take a look at, right? And you know what's weird about this is that I do wonder that because they're adding these things, if 1440p while not capping FPS but having higher hertz is the solution to play FC specifically. It's weird, but because that's how the game is. But yeah. Display settings guide. Here's a breakdown of the key display settings group for easier navigation. Screen setup, active monitor, new. Choose which one monitor displays the game in borderless or full screen. That's very important. I can switch it back to this screen finally, because all the other games you could choose, but this game you couldn't. So that's important that they added that. Borderless fills your screen without borders, cannot be resized. Oh, that's good. I think, you know what's funny? Ooh, you know what? It actually might perform better now. You know why? Because Battlefield, I have to compare the EA games because the way that they do stuff is very interesting, right? Because even Battlefield, I had to cap FPS for that game to not stutter as well, right? But for this game, giving it just the one option here, what's it called? Where did it go here? Borderless. This is very important because I think that's what I played on Battlefield. I think it had to be on borderless. It wasn't, I don't think it was windowed. I think it was on borderless. That's where the game on full screen didn't even work either. It was borderless. So if I can play on borderless, that'd be great, especially for content creation. Being able to switch screens and stuff would be fantastic. Because full screen is so annoying, man. It really is. Windowed runs in resizable, movable window. Aspect ratio new. Filters resolutions by chosen aspect ratio, full screen only. Screen resolutions. Sets display resolution higher equals sharper image. Lower performance. Borderless uses OS resolution. Okay, so frame rates and refresh. Refresh rate controls how often your monitor refreshes. Full screen only. Interesting. Okay. Frame rate limit caps FPS when VSync is off. VSync syncs FPS to your monitors to prevent tearing. They have this as an in-game option, guys. But a lot of the times with video games, you actually don't turn on the VSync in the game itself. A lot of the times, right? Not all the times, but a lot of the times. VSync you turn on in the NVIDIA control panel if you have an NVIDIA graphics card, right? Because if you do it from this, you add delay, right? In the actual game. You notice the difference when you do that, right? I've done like so many tests for this type of thing, man. So on matches the refresh rate, but again, the in-game VSync might lag. So be careful with that one, right? 50%, 33%, 25% syncs to FPS to a fraction of refresh rate. So example, on a 240 hertz monitor, 120 is 50, 80 is 33, and 60 is 25. That is really strange. So if you're on 360 hertz or 400, wait, hold on. So if you're on 480 hertz monitor for 1440p, because you might be able to bypass this in the files as well, you can get 240 FPS by syncing the FPS to a fraction of the refresh rate. Buddy, we're gonna have to do more tests because that's a lot of new stuff, man. A lot of times with this game, I'm not even kidding, like whenever I did want to play at 1080p resolution, I had to play on my Asus monitor. On my LG monitor, it didn't work properly, but on my Asus one, I would play at 1080p and I would have to limit the frame rate to like 120 every time. I couldn't do anything else, bro. It was crazy. Like going at a higher resolution, it was impossible until I found that setting, right? Cutscene performance controls FPS and cutscenes. That's fine. Half frame rate, full frame rate. That's not really matches your frame rate limit. Disabled when VSync is fractional. Okay. Scaling options render new scale, better performance, less sharper visuals, heavier GPU load. Yeah, but you're telling people like what the GPU and CPU load is now, so that's actually a good change. Dynamic resolution FPS target. So the FPS you want DRS to maintain. Example, target at 90 FPS resolution, scales in real time to stay near at 90 FPS. Graphics settings guide. The game will need to restart for changes. That's fine. Graphics presets. Auto low. Yep. Fidelity settings. See, so this is good, right? Cloth quality, so CPU, GPU, moderate use. Guys, They have to show it though, man. If they show the same thing like they do in Battlefield, then that's great. Grass quality, crowd quality, visual extras, PC requirements. Guys, we're going to talk about this in the future, but you're going to probably want to download Riva Tuner, and then you have to make sure that you disable the displays for like the power settings, because it's going to be important to go into a game and to see where your percentage is at for both the GPU and CPU, so that it doesn't stutter. So that's just, there's no bottlenecking between one or the other, you know? You might not have to, because with all these changes, they may have optimized the game to be significantly better. Who knows? But we'll see, man. It might be very similar to Battlefield. Honestly, it really might be. Recommended is 1080p 60 FPS gameplay medium preset. Yeah, don't play at 60 FPS. For PC, it's a huge difference. Minimum 120, but you want it to be as high as possible to lower your latency as much as possible. But we're going to have to take a look at that, because like I mentioned many times this year, it's very difficult to not cap FPS if your hertz does not surpass 144 hertz, but your FPS is surpassing that for FC specifically, okay? Because that's the one test I never really tried, because I don't have the monitor for it, right? If I had a 4K 240 hertz monitor, I would see, okay, if my FPS average, it goes to like 220, like the highs, and then the lows are like 180, then I'd be able to test it a little bit more to see if I still stutter on that sort of monitor. But yeah, it's a little bit difficult. This game is really weird for optimization, like very, very weird. Minimum recommended NVIDIA GTX 1660. So a 2080 Ti would still be good for this game. In theory. Is running and hasn't been tampered with whenever you play, preventing various forms of unfair play. Redefine detection methods. Kernel level protection. Some cheats run at the deepest level of computer operating system, which can make them almost invisible to traditional detection methods. That's good. Doing more anti-cheat stuff is very important. Okay, cool. Yeah, so this is important. There's a lot of like really new settings, to be honest, that I've never really seen before, so that's really, really a huge positive. But we'll see, guys. We're gonna mess with a lot of settings, because trust me, I've done so many. The amount of tests that I had to do for FC specifically is really helpful, because when I play other games, the optimization that I to figure out what I have to do here and there to make things work is like so quick now, because of the amount of research I did for the FC version of or for the PC version of FC. So we'll see what the vibes are, guys. When the game comes out, I'm gonna have to try to find like optimized ways of playing at a minimum effort, and then like later on in the game, if I find like a more optimized way, then we'll do that too. Okay, but for now, we'll leave it there. Thank you guys for watching. The FPS being added and stuff is not really a big deal, nor is the refresh rate stuff, because you can make those adjustments in NVIDIA control panel. So I think that my fix for the game, it might still be the same. It's either going to be the one that I'm going to come up with for people, because I've never seen it before. People say, yeah, VSYNC is the only way that makes it work and not stutter. You're not wrong, but you had to do something with the VSYNC for it to not stutter, because if you didn't do that one thing, then it like, people always told me before, like, yeah, just turn on VSYNC. I'm like, I'm still stuttering though. You know what I'm saying? And then I had to, only for FC specifically, when you're like, I think it was render resolution in the second one, I put those both on high. I swear to you, you had to go into the graphics setting every single time you open the game, medium back to high, and then that's why you didn't stutter. It was crazy. So I'm curious to see how this works, man. I really hope that I don't have to cap FPS in this game like I can in other games, and just get a low latency and just play from there. That'd be great. You know what I'm saying? That'd be fantastic. But I think for this game, guys, honestly, like, if you guys are like really hardcore with the PC stuff, like, this game is all about responsiveness. Like, you need it. Like, there's certain games that's all about it, like CSGO, Valorant, all that type of stuff. Like, for a game like the finals and stuff, like, it's not like a huge deal, like, because you still get a decent amount of FPS if you're playing like at a 4K resolution. But for this game, like, it's important to get the latency as low as possible, because you guys know that this game has problems with gameplay that does not exist anywhere else, right? So, but yeah, a lot of this new stuff that you guys see with the hertz and the FPS stuff, it's great that that's in the game, but you could have adjusted that before too. So we're gonna see what the vibes are. Okay, thanks for watching. I'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace out, dudes. Love you guys.